Absolutely. So when it comes to coaching, yeah, obviously not every player transitions to a coach, but where did that desire and passion come from? Like, when did you decide that, okay, that's what the next step is for me?
So I never was somebody who wanted to coach, my whole college career, or I saw myself even being a coach. Probably up until my last year in college, I was actually a fifth year. I redshirted my first year and had knee surgery. I was the only senior on that team, with a very young team, freshmen and sophomores mainly. And I feel like the leadership that was brought out of me, the trials and tribulations that I went through, the tests that my coaches put me through, I think that's where I knew that I wanted to and I could be a successful coach.
And so how did you get started into it? You started at Kansas as was it a grad assistant or grad
A
manager?
grad manager, I
Yeah,
think that's what they call it
right.
nowadays.
So how did that come about?
You know what? I can remember like it was yesterday. Pat was walking to her car with Holly, and I was coming from our practice facilities after the season. Holly says, her and Pat are standing there. Holly says, "Hey, you want to be a GA at Kansas? Bonnie Hendrickson just called needing a GA." And I would not advise anybody to say this as a response, but my response was, I guess, because at the time I didn't know what I wanted to do
Right.
really. And that was literally my response. But then I got it together and got some sense, um, and called Bonnie. We talked, and that's how I went to Kansas. And I think I was looking at Kansas. I had never been there. I didn't know anybody there. Who lives in Kansas? I'm from the South, so it's just a different type of living, on the Midwest. So, but yeah, great experience with Bonnie. She definitely tested. She was always going to be a test when it came to her coaches and really challenging her coaches from a work ethic and a basketball IQ standpoint.
And then what was it like working the way up the ladder? Because you didn't get anything handed. It wasn't like, okay, you're automatically assistant coach and this is the plan to work up to the top. So how did it come about? Like, how did that process go about, starting at Kansas and now sitting here as the
Yeah.
head coach at the University of Memphis?
Well, I'll be honest. Anybody in this business knows it's not what you know, it's who you know. So because I coached under and coached with a Hall of Fame coach in Rick Insell, and his family are deep in what I did as a high school player, and had a lot to do with my development as a basketball player. So, I had the opportunity to go back to him at Middle Tennessee, closer to home at the time, to be an assistant coach. I think I was probably 23 at the time. And funny, I played against some of the players that I was coaching. So that's how young I was.
Yeah.
And played against them in AAU in high school. But yeah, I mean, when you try to keep your relationship strong and don't burn any bridges, as they say, good things will happen, and that's exactly what happened to me.
So you've played and coached under some of the greatest, as you just mentioned, Pat Summitt, Insel, like some of these people that you were with. And so many coaches that I've talked to say that they pick little things from each coach. What have you picked up along the way from some of the people that you've played and coached under?
Pat, it was definitely discipline. I mean, all around, just off the court, on the court, it was discipline. I was a college student at one time and probably wasn't the most disciplined all the time. But, from when I talk about challenges, she definitely challenged you from that standpoint. And then from Coach Insel, just how hard he goes in everything that he does. He's going to push you to your limits at all times, no matter if you think you can't take it or not. So just being able to push players, knowing players, understanding how to coach players in different positions. He'll be the one to tell you don't mess with shooters, and that's where I got that from. So when it comes to 3-point shooters, you don't really mess with them. You don't get in their head. But I think those two are the main things from Coach Summitt and Coach Insel.